Hello. Good evening, everybody. Let's wait a minute. Hello. Anybody here? Anybody available? Hello. We're going to start in a minute. I want to get this thing done. I don't see anything. 1 second. Setting it up. 1 second, everybody. Okay. Oops, I think I lost you.
Class is canceled?
Class is never canceled. Nobody's here. Nobody's coming to the class. Oh, we're going to start in a minute. Give us a second. We're setting up over here. 1 second. I've got to get my stand. I got to find my stand. Hold on 1 second. I got to find... Where's the stand?
I don't know. Oh, it's there.
Where is it? On the table?
Behind the roses.
Oh, I found my stand. 1 second, don't go away. I'm gonna set this thing up. Okay. Okay, we're getting ready. Okay. So good evening, everybody. If you have any questions, you can ask by texting your questions, and we can. If you have any problems, I can help you out. On this advertisement that I did for this class, I had there a link. There was a link there to a Yisker. I can't find it myself. There was a link there to the Yisker. Oh, I didn't print it. I'm sorry. There was a link there to the Yisker, the actual Yisker prayer. So you can download that link. If you need the link, I can send you a link, and you can print it out, and you could do the Yisker. You can have it when you need it at home on the Yontiv that we do the Yisker. My friends. We are holding this year in a very special time of the year, and our Yontiv is going to be different than the previous years, because as we come to the end of the Yontiv of Pesach, tomorrow night starts the end of the second 2 days of Pesach. We have two very important customs that we do that are connected to these two, the last day, especially the last day of Pesach, which this year we're going to have to do it in a different way than we do it every year. So we all know that we are holding today in Chalamoid Pesach. We started off Pesach with the first 2 days of Pesach and went through Chalamoid. We are holding in the middle of Chalamoid, in the third day of Chalamoid of Pesach. Tomorrow night is going to start again Yontiv of Pesach. It's going to start the Yontiv of the last 2 days of Pesach. In Eretz Yisrael, it's 1 day of Pesach. In Chutz La'aretz, in the land of Israel, we have 2 days. So in Eretz Yisrael, will go only to Wednesday, and in Chutz La'aretz, Wednesday night will be over. And in Chutz La'aretz in America, we are going to have 2 days of the holiday of Pesach. We're going to have it Wednesday and Thursday, and Yontiv is going to end on Thursday night, which is called, these 2 days are called, over here, it's called Shvi Shel Pesach. Wednesday is called the 7th day of Pesach, and Thursday is called Achen Shel Pesach, the last day of Pesach. So each and every one of these days has a significance. So we all know, as we know, the Torah says, on the first day shall be a holiday, you shall not do any work. And on the seventh day, it should be a holiday, and no work shall be done. And that is the seventh day of Pesach, this coming Wednesday, which is the seventh day of Pesach. What is the seventh day of Pesach? Well, besides that we're not allowed to work, and we're still not allowed to eat chametz, we're not obligated per se to eat matzah, but we're still not allowed to eat any chametz until after Pesach. What happened on the seventh day of Pesach? So in history, what happened on the seventh day of Pesach is Kriyas Yamsuf, is that as the Jewish people journeyed from the land of Mitzrayim, they journeyed out on the 15th day of Nisan, and they traveled, as the Torah tells us, for 7 days, and the Egyptians waited 3 days because Moses said that on the 3 days you're going to come back. They saw the Jews were not coming back. They chased after them, and they cornered them between the Sea of Reeds and backing up to mountains that surrounded them, and the Egyptians that locked them into this narrow and stuck situation, which ultimately the Jewish people, as God told them on the seventh day, which is Wednesday, that they should continue their journey, and the sea, the famous miracle of the splitting of the sea and the crossing of the sea, or going through the sea, happened, and the Jewish people were saved, and the Egyptians followed them into the sea, and they were all drowned, as the Torah says, that as you see the Egyptians today, you will never see them again. And that's what happened on the seventh day of Pesach, and we do that in the synagogue. We come together on the seventh day of Pesach. In Shul, we read the portion of Bashalach, which tells us the story of going out of Egypt, and the story of coming to the edge of the sea, and the story of the splitting of the sea, and the total liberation of the Jewish nation that happened on the seventh day of the seventh day of going out of Egypt. And that's what we celebrate. That's a celebration of the seventh day of Pesach. In Eretz Yisrael, as in the land of Israel, this day is already the end of Pesach. That comes Wednesday night. Passover is over, and by them, the seventh day and what we call on the eighth day, Achor Pesach, happens on the same day. By us, we in America and out of Eretz Yisrael, we have another day. We added another day, and that is the eighth day of Pesach, which is this coming Thursday. So we added another day, which in the Gemara, in the Talmud, it's called Yontev Sheni Shal Golias, which is called the second day holiday of those that were in exile. In those times, those who were in Babylon, and we are continued that law, the rabbinical law, to make a second day holiday, which is on this coming Thursday, Achar Shal Pesach. On this day, Achar Shal Pesach, we have two beautiful customs that we do in our synagogues. And the first custom is Yizker, the aspect of remembering those that have passed on. And the second custom is at the end of Yontiv, as it comes closer to the ending of the Yontiv, like an hour or two before the ending of the Yontiv, we sit down and we do a custom the Baal Shem Tov asked that we should do. And we sat down for the Mashiach Suda, for the celebration of the Messianic Suda, so to say. As the Baal Shem Tov said, that as it's brought down in the prophecy of that day, and then when in the Haftorah of that day talks about the coming of Mashiach, he said, in essence, the first day of Pesach was the going out of Egypt, and the last day of Pesach is the hope of the future, which is the going out of exile, of the final exile. And he said, just like we celebrate just like in the time of Egypt, the Jewish people celebrated the Seder in Mitzrayim while they were still in exile. So too, to show their faith and that they're going to go out of Gullus, so too we as Jews sitting in Gullus, sitting still in exile in Boca, we are to come together and celebrate the celebration, and have 4 cups of wine and drink matzah, etc. And that has been a custom. Great custom by Chassidim, by Chabad, many other Chassidim, and it was called Mashiach Suda, the Suda of Mashiach, which these are two beautiful things that were usually done in a communal setting and should be done in a communal setting. This year is not going to be done in a communal setting as we continue through the journey of this virus, and we're going to do it alone in our homes. I want to make a very important disclaimer, in that we shouldn't get comfortable with the point of doing Yisker in our homes, because even though the Yisker in law can be done in our homes, but Yisker was established as part of the community event. It was established as part of being part of davening, and being part of it was put exactly. Yisker was to be put exactly in the middle of the prayer after the reading of the Torah. I'll tell you why. It's a simple law in Shulchan Aruch, which the Code of Jewish Law says, and why it's put exactly. Yisker is put exactly where it's supposed to be put. So therefore, that we're doing this year in our homes is something that is irregular, and Amir Shem, the next holiday that comes Yisker, nobody should do it in their homes. We should all do it together in shul, because that's where it needs to be said. That's where the sages established it, and that's where ultimately we should do it. This is only because of the situation that we're in, and we have no choice but to do Yisker out of the synagogue. We're doing Yisker out of the synagogue. So Yisker is something that's a custom that we're not sure exactly when it was established, in which area and time it was established, because we find many customs between Ashkenazim and Sfardim, and customs by Jews in general. And there was a custom to say Yisker every Shabbos in Shul. And there is, in a way, we say Avarachamim, which is a Yisker, we say on a Shabbos, every Shabbos again, before Muster, we say an Avarachamim, which is a concept of Yisker for those who died, Al Kiddush Hashem. So you actually say Yisker in a way, in a small way. We're saying Yisker every Shabbos, but in the communities has been established that there was some communities, I think in the Sephardic communities, it has been established say Yisker only in Kippur. In Ashkenazi communities, we say Yisker 4 times a year, and that is on Yom Kippur and on Shmini Atzeres. That means the Yom Kippur, on Yom Kippur we say Yisker, and the Sfardim will also say Yisker. On Shmini Atzeres, which is the last day of Sukkot, and on Shavuos, the second day of Shavuos, and also on the last day of Pesach, we say Yisker. And that is the custom that is done by Jews, that these 4 times a year we say Yisker. And many Sephardic communities also follow this custom to say Yisker also on these 4 times of the year. And what is the basic reason why we say Yisker on these times of the year? Because if you listen to Yisker is connected to a very powerful statement that you say in the Yisker, and that is Bavur Shenodot Tzedakah. Yisker was established on the basis of the act of charity. And I'll explain you why it was based on that concept. But it was based on that statement. Bavur Shenodot Tzedakah. Because I'm doing this Yisker, I'm mentioning my parents, blessed memory, my grandparents of blessed memory, God forbid my child of blessed memory, because I'm going to give charity for him. I'm going to do an act of charity for him. And why is it connected to the concept of charity? Because in the reading of the Torah on these 4 occasions, it mentions in the reading of the Torah that every Jew should bring sacrificial offerings as a thanksgiving to God, an act of charity. And because in the Torah reading of those, because there's a special Torah reading we read, and actually we read this on the especially Yontivs, we read this Torah reading on all 3 Yontivs, on the last day of Yontiv, Kol HaBachar, and because it's mentioned that over there, the concept of where we're going to bring sacrificial offerings of thanksgiving and charitable acts of nedava and good kindness that we're bringing to the temple, that's why right away we want to say that we're doing this act of kindness not only for the living, for those that are here in this world, but we actually want to do the acts of kindness for also for those that have passed away. Because it's important for us, and it's important for the souls that are in heaven to have these acts of kindness, that at least 4 times a year, these acts of kindness that we can do for an neshama, for a loved one, lamaila, it can be connected to our times of celebration, to our times of where we come as Jews together and celebrate, whether it's this year, the celebration now, the celebration of going out of Egypt, celebration of freedom, whether it's a celebration of the giving of the Torah, which is going to be in a couple of weeks from today, 6 weeks from today, or ultimately the celebration of Sukkot. These celebrations, we are in essence saying to ourselves that these celebrations, we are greatly happy and are willing to show our happiness and our joy through the acts of kindness, charity, that with God didn't give us. As we say in our praise, when it comes to a yontiv, we say Shechiyanu, Vikimanu, Vihigiyanu, that thank God we have survived and we have come to another holiday to celebrate this holiday. We're not only celebrating this holiday and we thank God for ourselves, but we thank God and we show our thanks through the concept of tzedakah, through the aspect of charity, through giving to others. And this concept is even more emphasized when we say that in essence that we had the capability to celebrate this holiday. We had the capability to come to this holiday and to celebrate it. We had this capability because of our ancestors, because of where we came from, because that we had parents and grandparents and great-grandparents who gave us the capability, who gave us life. We're here because of them, who gave us ethics, who gave us morals, who sacrificed them life and their lifestyles, all because of giving charity to us, giving us the capability to go on. And that's why we, in essence, come these days, on Yontiv, which is seemingly a happy day. Why would we come on Yontiv on a happy day and have a Yisker? Because in essence, we're saying that we're happy. We're continuing the lives and the souls of this soul. You know, on this holiday, on a Yontiv, one of the way we express, besides saying Yisker and a remembrance, we light a candle. What is the connection of a candle lighting to a neshama? Because it's based on a pasuk, a verse. It says, Kinei Hashem nishmas adam. For the candle of God is the soul of man. So we compare a soul to a candle. And the Alter Rebbe in Tanya explains. He says that's like fire that's on a wick, constantly wants to go above. The soul, this fire, always wants to connect to its source, always wants to transcend the place that it is, the physical, so to say, the place that it is, always wants to go to a higher level. So too, this neshama, our soul, even while it's in our body, always wants to go above. Our neshama, our nefesh elokis, our godly soul, always wants to connect to something that is higher. Always wants to go higher and higher. You know, the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, once told somebody after the passing of their loved ones, he said, you know, don't think that the soul is someplace very, very far away. Something like, the heavens, the soul like traveled 1,000,000 miles away. The Rebbe said, really, the concept of the aspect of the soul going up is really going, like you can imagine somebody lives on an upper floor. I live in the first floor and somebody lives the floor up. He's just elevated himself to a higher space. That space can be right near me. God's space can be right in front of me. That concept of that soul, the soul is a spiritual concept. The soul is a spiritual entity. Its journey is in its spirituality. It's not like, so when we say a soul should have an aliyah, should I go higher? Higher does not, because we think higher is that, I'm on the first floor and he's on the 50th floor. Higher does not mean that in spirituality. That's in physicality. The higher you are, the higher floor you're going to be on. It doesn't work that way in a spiritual sense. You can be in the same place and be higher. Even in this world. In this world, as a human being, we're all living in the same space. But some people, their minds are lower, and some people's minds are higher. They have higher morals, they have higher ethics, they have higher spirituality. They're in the same space. We're all living in the same space, in the same place of the world. But we can be in different places at the same time. As the verse says, the place where a person wants to be, that's where he is. So we can all be in one place physically. If you want to talk in the physical realms, we can all be in one simple place, but we all can be at the same time in different places. So too the neshama, when it says it goes, it reaches above its physical connection, and now it goes to a spiritual reality. It can be right above us, that soul. It can be right above us. Our parents can be right above us. The expression of verse is uplift your eyes. And that uplift your eyes is one I'll uplift my eyes. It's right above us. It can be right in front of us. Right in front of us. Our souls of our parents can be standing right in front of us. We don't see it because we're stuck in the physical, and they are more in the spiritual. They can see us. It's hard for us to see them. They can have a connection with us, and they do have this connection with us. And we, because of our limitations of our bodies, it's hard for us to have this connection with them. If we can elevate ourselves, if we can uplift ourselves, and we can understand them in a spiritual way, then we will have a greater connection with them even as we are in a body. The truth is that our relationship with our loved ones, when they were alive, continues that relationship after they have passed on. Because if I had only in a physical relationship with a person, then once that physical is not here, then I cannot have a relationship with that person anymore. But if I have a spiritual relationship with that person, we had a very deep relationship with one another. We had a spiritual understanding. We understood each other. We were there for each other in all aspects of life. We cared for each other. We worried about one another. We thought about each other. Then that concept does not end. Cannot end. Because that is a concept of the mind. That's a spiritual relationship that I had with the connection of the soul of the person that I loved. Our souls' inner connections are never broken. Our souls' connections live on and they continue on. Because they were always connected and they cannot be disconnected. Physically, yes, we can be disconnected. And that's a very sad thing, to also be physically disconnected. But spiritually, it cannot be disconnected. Our spiritual connection only can go deeper and deeper. Sometimes, by taking away the physical, we become more closer to the spirituality of somebody else. That can happen when we get lost in the physical and we forget about the other person, who the other person really is. And therefore, sometimes when the physical is gone, as it says, absence makes the heart fonder. That's the expression. So when we don't see something physical, the physical is not there. It's not enough. It doesn't attract us. It doesn't throw us off kilt. Then we have a total spiritual connection. We have a total spiritual connection with God, and God demands us not to make God into a physical domain. Don't make God into a physical domain. The Alter Rebbe in Tanya says true Avas Yisrael, true love, is not based on the physical. It's impossible two people to physically love each other without strings attached. Avas Chinam, to have true Ava based on the physical attributes. It needs to be a spiritual connection. We need to have this spiritual connection. The Lubavitcher Rebbe would say that the greatest proof of this spiritual connection between parents and children, between loved ones, is Yizkor. That when we come together and we remember them, we remember their souls. What are we remembering about them? We're remembering their souls. We're remembering our spiritual connections that we had with them. What do I remember of my father? I remember my love to him, our relationship, what I meant to him, and what he meant to me. Those things are our connections that we have and we continue to have. And I hope that I never forget it. I hope I will never forget it. And to show that, I say to this neshama, I'm going to do something for you. I'm going to do an act of charity. I'm going to do something special that I wouldn't do if it wasn't for you. And that's why the connection between Yizkor and the concept of Bavusha Nadav, because I am going to give charity, that's why they're interconnected. That's why it's so important. It's so important for this neshama, this soul above, who cannot do a mitzvah anymore, who cannot do an act of kindness physically. And he sees the greatness of this mitzvah. Every soul, when it realizes in the body, we might get lost and lose the real reason of why we're here on the world. The acts of kindness, small acts of kindness, the small act of giving charity that we think is not so important. To the soul that's in heaven, he sees the great importance of this small act of charity. And when I, in this world, turn to the neshama, I say, I love you. I have this connection with you. We are connected. And you know why? And you know what I will do? I will not only love you in a spiritual way, I'm going to do something after Yontiv. I'm going to give charity in your name. And I say the name. In the Yizkor, I say the name. So I would say my father's name, Rav Chaim Meir ben Avram Shmuel. I'm going to give tzedakah. I'm going to give charity in your merit. And that's going to give something to your neshama. Because how high your neshama is in a spiritual sense, when I do that act of charity, that soul receives an unbelievable merit, sees an unbelievable inner connection. And that's why it's so important that the loved ones say Yizkor. It was so important throughout history that we don't only say Yizkor for somebody else. We say Yizkor for those that we loved, to those that we had a relationship with, to those that we had a deep connection with, to those that cared for us, to those that wanted to see that we would grow and we would flourish and we'd be successful and we would do good things. To those that really cared and wanted us to do these things, those are the ones that we're going to do something good for. Those are the ones, and we'll do something good for all, but especially, I will do it this year in honor and memory of my father, of blessed memory, in memory of my mother, who I'm doing Yizkor this year, second year of Yizkor. She passed away on her Chodesh Nisan. I'm going to do something for my mother, Esther Zissel, Bas Sholem Yaakov. I'm going to promise charity. I'm going to give it. I'm going to say to the God that I wanted my soul of my mom, as she's connected in heaven, as we are connected here on this world. I'm going to do something for her, and her neshama is going to have a great elevation. That's what we do every year on these holidays, on the second day of Pesach. As I said, the Rebbe says, we see the inner connection between the soul and the loved ones is on Yizkor. We want to go to Yizkor. For some reason, Jews want to go to Yizkor. They want to come to Shul to Yizkor. It's such a beautiful expression. They come to Yizkor. They save this memory. What schlepped them? What dragged them to Shul? What brought them to Shul, the Rebbe says? What brought them to Shul is that the soul above, who's asking them, go to Shul. Be in a community. Be in a synagogue. Hear the reading of the Torah. Say Kaddish. Say a prayer, Psalms. Say that you're going to give charity. Miserably, if you said you're going to give charity, you will give charity. Soul is happy. And therefore, my friends, as we celebrate the holiday of Pesach, we remember our loved ones. We don't forget them because we're interconnected with them. And it comes to this year, even though we cannot be in shul, we cannot hear the reading of the Torah, which talks about giving. We're going to still do Yizkor. going to do it in your living room. Not because you want to do it, not because you're going to do it in the future that way, because that's the way God wants you to do it today. And don't forget that. Because this, we shouldn't get comfortable with doing Yizkor in our private homes. That's not the way it was established. That's not what the way the sages wanted it to be done. The sages wanted that we should do Yizkor in Shul. And we will do Yizkor in Shul. If Mashiach doesn't come by this Pesach, we'll do Yizkor in Shul. Be'ezat Hashem, this coming Shavuot. On this day, in the Haftorah of the day, which we read, and you can read the Haftorah in your homes. You should read the Haftorah. It's in the back of your Siddur. In the Haftorah, it's written, the prophecy of the coming of Mashiach. And a wolf shall live with a lamb, and a leopard shall lie with its young goat. The land shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as water covers over the seabed. He shall gather the lost of Israel, and scattered ones of Judah, and he shall gather them in four corners of the earth. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, nor shall Judah envy Ephraim. This is the prophecy that we mentioned on the last day of Pesach. The prophecy of the going out of Golus, the going out of the last exile. When God's going to take away envy, hatred, jealousy. God will turn nations to help each other. And God will, we say in our synagogues, every Shabbos, we give a prayer that God should turn into wooden plowshares. They should turn the armory into plowshares. We need to turn the evil, negativity, hatred into good. And this is a prophecy that that has been prophesied, something that we have been living with for thousands of years. The belief in the coming of Mashiach, a world of peace, a world of knowledge of God, as the prophet says, as the sea covers its bed. It's an aspect of true knowledge. A time of the resurrection of the dead. The resurrection of the dead. We cannot forget the concept of the resurrection of the dead. And that's one of the 13 principles of Jewish faith. After the coming of Mashiach will be the resurrection of the dead. And therefore also we mention Yizkor in the same time at this Haftorah. Because the souls of our loved ones need to have every small good deed that we can do for them. Every mitzvah we can do for them. That soul needs it in heaven. Whatever the soul did in this world, or whatever it didn't do, right now it cannot do. It can have spiritual bliss. It can have unbelievable delight. But it cannot do one mitzvah. It cannot do simple act, one act of physical act in this world. And therefore, it needs us. It needs every single one of us. That it should merit ultimate revelations and ultimate Chis HaMesim. It needs our acts. And the more we can do acts of kindness, the more we can do a mitzvah. Whatever the mitzvah might be. Pick a mitzvah. Pick the mitzvah of charity. You mentioned it in Yizkor. Pick another mitzvah. And say, I'm going to do this mitzvah for my parents, for my loved one, for my deceased partner, for my deceased son child. I'm going to do this mitzvah. I'm going to do this mitzvah for that soul. You know what kind of unbelievable light and existence you're going to give to this neshama? You cannot imagine. One small little act that we do in this world gives unbelievable light for the neshama if we do it in its honor, if we do it for that name. You know, it says in the ethics of our fathers, Yafa Keiras Ruach, Yafa Shosha Keiras Ruach. This unbelievable 1 hour of delight in the world to come is greater than 1,000 years in this world. But one act, one good act, is worth it more than 1,000 years in the world to come. One good act that we give is 1,000 lights, 1,000 candles for the neshama the way it's above. So light your candle. Light that candle before Yontif. Or you can light it on Yontif on an existing flame. Light that candle. Remember that soul. Light it and say the name of the soul. Say, I'm lighting this candle. Just like this candle is giving me light in this world, let this candle give the soul light in the upper worlds. Then the next day, on the last day of Yontif, Thursday, find a Yisker. I can send it to you. You can download it, print it, and in your own privacy, think about that person. Say the Yisker. Say that Yisker. Say the name. Tell that name. Tell that person, I'm going to do an act for you. I'm going to give charity. You say it anyway. It says there, I'm going to give money. I'm going to do an act of charity. If you want to do more, say, I'm going to do more. I'm going to do another mitzvah for you. You can add, I'm sure, to the soul will be happy if you add many mitzvahs. I'm going to do another mitzvah for you. Another act of charity, another whatever mitzvah you want to do. I tell you, it's going to be 1,000 lights for that neshama. It will be an unbelievable existence, light, just like a small candle. In this world, brings unbelievable light. In the upper worlds, a small candle brings like a booming light for this neshama. And that's why we come to the second part of the ending part of the holiday, where the Baal Shem Tov said we should come together in memory, not in memory, in honor of the Haftorah, of the prophecy of the end of days, the prophecy of the coming of Mashiach, the prophecy when the light will permeate the world, when this world will become an unbelievable world, a world not only that is good and that is kind, a world that will be godly. The knowledge of God will spread throughout the entire world. Not only on the internet, which you can become a genius today on the internet, but you'll become a physically genius. You're all going to sit and learn more. We're going to study more. We're going to contemplate more, meditate more. We'll have that experience, a spiritual experience. That's the thing. That is what the prophets prophesize. That we'll all have a much greater spiritual experience in our life and have a deeper understanding of who we are, what's our purpose, what's the agenda of creation, what is God's will, and what does God want. And we'll all do as the Mishnah and Ethics of Our Father says, may it be that you do with your will like the will of God. So we'll all be able to accomplish, to understand what is the will of God. What is the Ratzon? What is truly the will of God? Right now we can argue, and this is this way and that is that way. Even by Jews, we're arguing and everybody's arguing. To be Jewish, we got to argue. We won't stop arguing. Because the truth is, we can all be different and all have the same will. We all have the same desire and the same wish. You know, as a family, which on the last day of Pesach, we were mentioning the concept of family, our parents, grandparents. Family has many different people. Family can have 10 children, have 10 different agendas, 10 different personalities. We're all part of one family. The expression in the Talmud is Av Echad Likulanu. We have one Father. We are different people. Ein day saying Shabbos, two people cannot think the same, but we have one agenda. We have one purpose. We have one family agenda. And the truth is, the whole world is one family. Not only the Jewish people one family, the whole world is one family. We are one part of one human race. We are all here as one human race. Are we like one? No, but we're part of the human race. We are family. So surely the Jewish nation is a family. We are a family. We care for each other. Right now, in a time of pain and suffering, we always remember each other, but we need to remember each other in a time of gladness, in a time of joy, in a time of Yontiv. And that's when the time of Yontiv comes, and we're in celebration, Achar Shel Pesach. We remember that we are family. We're one nation, we're one family. Av Echol L'Kolanu, we have one Father, we have one Torah, we have one God, and we have one land. We are one. We come out of Bnei Yisrael. We are called the children of Israel, who was one person, Jacob, whose name was Israel. And that's why we are called the children of Israel. We are all the children of Israel. We're all the children of God. So we come together, the Baal Shem Tov said, come together on Achar Shel Pesach, on Thursday, and celebrate. Celebrate that this prophecy is not only a prophecy that we're going to learn about, study about, contemplate about, even wish about. We're going to celebrate. We're going to physically celebrate it. Just like we celebrate the redemption of Egypt, we celebrate. Not that we spoke about it, we sat a whole night and contemplated, and we spoke. Actually, I saw many of the comments of people that spoke about how the Seder was this year. They said they never spoke so much on the holiday like they spoke this year around the table, their own tables. And it was so uplifting how people got together and spoke about the holiday, the Yontiv, what is the meaning of redemption, what is the meaning of freedom, and people had an unbelievable experience. So too, on Thursday, before the end of Yontiv, an hour or two before the end, Yontiv ends around 8:15, 8:17. Get together, sit down with a table, take out your matzah, take out your wine, celebrate. If you want to have it, you can. I'm gonna share with you. But I will share it on my Facebook, that you can come together around the table and you could talk about what's the concept of redemption. What is the Jewish concept of redemption? Where's the basis? Many think people talk about Mashiach, I think it's a non-Jewish concept. It is a Jewish concept. It's in the Torah. It's in the prophecy. It's in the prophets. So what do the prophets say about it? What does the Torah say about it? What does Maimonides say about it? What is it? Instead of hearing from the news or from places that are not so kosher, let's hear what the Torah says about this concept. Maybe I'll have a whole different perspective of the coming Mashiach when I will learn about it. I'll read about it, and then I'll come to my own seichel. I'll come to my own understanding in this aspect of the Messianic concept. And that's what the Baal Shem Tov wanted that you should do. Sit around the Seder, eat matzah, drink 4 cups of wine. You don't have to drink the whole cup. Drink some wine. Celebrate what it means to you. What would you think it means to you that we're going to go out of exile? That the world needs redemption. That there's a concept of what I mentioned in Isaiah. V'gar zevin kezer, and a wolf shall lie with the lamb, and the land shall be full of the. These are the basic principles of Mashiach. The wolf shall live with the lamb. The land shall be full of the knowledge of God. He shall gather all of Israel, the scattered ones of Judah, and he shall gather them in the 4 corners of the earth. And what is the meaning? Ephraim shall not hate Yehuda, and Yehuda shall not vex Ephraim. What is the meaning of these statements? What is the meaning of these concepts? You need to learn. Each one of us need to learn. I can tell what it means to me, but what does it mean to you? And therefore, this holiday, the last days of Pesach, Achar Shel Pesach, is going to demand on each and every one of us to do it by themselves. Instead of hearing speeches from the rabbi, who's going to tell you what it means, you need to sit down. You should sit down. Take the paraphernalia, the things that you can acquire, the books or the things that I can share with you, and have your own journey in your understanding in the meaning of these concepts. And I believe it's going to resonate much stronger and much better than any rabbi's speech, any lecture that you're going to go to, because it's going to come from yourself. It's going to come from your own understanding. You're going to read it. You're going to try to comprehend it. You'll write some questions, and I will try to answer you. But you'll learn it by yourself. And I think the beauty, the way sages put these 2 concepts together, Yisker, past and the meaning of the past. What is the meaning of the remembering those souls? Self-understood is the meaning, the beauty that we had, the connections that we had, the love that we had, the ethics, the morals that we learned and we connected. Nafshei kshuda benafshei, the expression of the Torah, is that our souls are connected. They are interconnected. And the concept of Mashiach, they go hand in hand. They simply go hand in hand. Because if you learn Chassidut, you learn Kabbalah, the concept of Mashiach is the revelation of the soul. Is the concept of the where we will realize the greatness of the soul over the body. That the body is great. And we cannot have a journey in life without the body. And we surely cannot connect to the world and affect the world without the body. But it's the vehicle for the soul. The purpose is our soul. The purpose is our godly soul. And when we remember our parents, we remember their godly soul. We remember their godliness. That's what we're remembering. We can picture the physicality, but we remember. The remembrances are interconnections that we had with them. The love that we had for each other. The understanding that we had with one another. And especially our loved ones. If God forbid somebody lost a loved one, or a husband, or a wife. These are soul connected. You were bashert. You were there to be one. You were there to make this journey on the world together. You accomplished so much with each other. Those accomplishments are in vain. Those accomplishments disappear. God forbid. They continue. They might even get better. Your children and your grandchildren continue in the footsteps of their parents, their grandparents. Isn't that a beautiful thing when we can look at the soul? Body is great, but the soul is even greater. This world is great. The Messianic time is even greater. And therefore, as Jews, we always hope for something greater. In the situation we were always in, we always hope for something better. That's where we connect those two entities in one day, on the 8th day of Pesach, Achron Shel Pesach. The day we remember our loved ones, the day that we realize that we're just here to bring our loved ones, generations bygone, we're bringing them to the ultimate purpose, which is the redemption, which will merit the redemption of the entire world, the redemption of the Jewish nation, which will bring about Tchias HaMesim, the resurrection of the dead, that our loved ones will come back again. Can you imagine? I only can imagine. Let's hope we'll merit to that concept. My friends, I'll end off. Don't get used to this situation. We're going to make it through. Hang in there. Don't give up. We're going to make through this situation. We're going to overcome all our challenges. We're going to be better. We're going to unite again. We're going to be together again in Shul. We'll say Yisker again together in Shul. I promise you. And we're going to create that bond with our loved ones where it needs to be done. And that's in a Shul. They want to come to Shul. So not only are we feel bad that we're not going to be in Shul, to be able to say Yisker, our loved ones in heaven, my parents in heaven, are also going to be sad that they're not going to come to Shul. They were not going to visit Shuls around the world as they go from child to child to visit them on Yontiv. They'll come to our homes, to our living rooms, but they'd rather be in Shul. We'll also Yisker, wherever we are, we'd rather be in Shul, but we'll do it in our homes, because that's what God wants us to do. And what God wants us to do, that's what we'll do. But we'll do it because we need to do it, not because that's what we really want to do. I wish and I hope and I pray that God brings the redemption to the world. God brings first the healing to the world. Healing to those that are sick. God brings healing to the souls of so many of my people that I know lost their parents and grandparents. So sad. And I hope and I pray that this thing comes to an end quickly, And before Achon Shel Pesach, before the last day of Pesach, will merit to the prophecy that we read on the last day of Pesach, the coming of Mashiach, and the end of suffering in the world, and the celebration of Mashiach Suda, the Mashiach Suda that we'll make for him, because Mashiach is going to be here, so we'll all make a beautiful celebration for him, where we'll celebrate together with him, and let us hope, and I pray to God that we all dance out of this gullus, we dance out of this exile, bimheira b'yameinu mamash, speedily in our days. Have a wonderful evening. If I don't speak to you before Pesach, I wish you all, before the end of the last days of Pesach, I wish you all a wonderful Yontiv, happy Yontiv. Yontiv ends on Thursday night. Tomorrow night is Yontiv. You need to light Shabbos candles, Yontiv candles. All the women need to light Yontiv candles. And Yisker is going to be on Thursday, wherever you are. And the Mirchem Yontiv ends on Thursday night. And I only wish you the best. I love you all. God bless you all. Have a wonderful and beautiful evening.